Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Lloyd and I source cars for people on a professional basis. Although most of the cars I source are between £1,000 and £5,000, very often I've been asked to show something a little bit cheaper on the channel, and so I came up with No Budget Reviews, the series where we look at cars that you can buy in good condition with an MOT for under £1,000 and you can enjoy driving. We don't film this in an expensive manner, we don't use separate microphones, we don't use fluid head tripods, we don't even use a DSLR, but we do have a lot of fun.
Well, viewers, we knew it was going to come at some time. We haven't had any R8 Rovers on the channel for far too long, and we haven't had any Tomcats on the channel for far too long either. I did do a Tomcat and Tweed Jacket reviews an awfully long time ago. We're talking, I think, June 2019. One of the most famous ones in the country of those is one belonging to Mr Richardson from the Furious Driving channel, and that's what we filmed. This is a bit of a later car than that. His is a 1993. This is a 1998, so it's quite a late one. It's a, either, depending on what you want to call it, a 216 Coupé or just a Rover 1.6 Coupé, which I believe was used in the marketing for these, although if you look at the DVLA check sites, this car just comes up as a 216 Coupé. I don't believe this is the SE version because it's fitted with the 6-spoke optional, what are called the turbo alloy wheels. The SEs had 5-spoke wheels. Bizarrely, the 216s like this came standard with steel wheels and would have been a cloth interior, but this has been upgraded with these optional alloy wheels and a leather interior. You can see that by 1998, these cars actually had a different dashboard. This is a dashboard from the Rover R3 200, and you know, it's got an airbag and things like that. Even the gear lever's been changed for one from the R3 200, and what I'm trying to work out in this car, if this is the R65 or the PG1 gearbox. I thought all Tomcat coupes and the coupe version of the 200 were known of a Tomcat in development. I thought all of them actually had the PG1 gearboxes, which are a Honda code development from back in the day. But this does feel like the R65 gearbox, and it's a cable clutch in it, so what do I know? The 1.8s, which were sold alongside these, would have had the PG1 gearbox. Exactly the same sort of interior as the R3 200, and we've had a couple of those on the channel. A little bit of wood up there, passenger airbag in this particular one as well, which is good. The earlier Tomcats, which Mr Richardson's one had, the earlier type of dashboard was the same as the other R8 Rovers, the 200s, 400s, etc. One thing this does mean, and this is the same as in the earlier models, is that the radio is quite a stretch down here, because the front structure of an R3 is virtually the same as an R8 actually. No air conditioning in this particular one. That was quite an expensive option. It was available, but it's more common in things like the Japanese spec cars. Classic sort of 80s, 90s Honda indicator stalk and wiper stalk. Mirror switch there, actually out of a sort of later Montego or a Rover 800 or something like that. And then these steering wheel controls, which were used right up until the end of production of things like the Rover 45 and 25. See if my secret mission documents go in there. No, we're not going to, because you've got an MG Rover branded oil filter in there. One thing I do like about these Tomcats is the frameless doors. An often forgotten thing is the fact that there was actually a 3-door hatchback version of these cars as well. So although this is the coupe, you could also get a 3-door hatchback. So all the derivatives you could ever imagine for the R8 platform, and we'll be covering another one of those that Chris owns in a future video. Right, I think I'm going to take a look in the boot actually, that's what we'll do next. Now you can use the internal release to the boot, but today we'll be using the key. Now, that feels so familiar lifting up one of those from the two R8s that I've owned myself, although they were just both normal 5 doors. Not a hatchback, although we've got a rear wiper, so this is a saloon with a rear wiper, just a 2-door saloon really. Can we lift up the boot carpet and we can see underneath we'll have some kind of spare wheel. Yes, we do. It's a full-size one as well. It's not an alloy one, but it is a full-size one. The opening is quite narrow. It reminds me in this respect of a Mr Matt Coupé. That's probably even worse than this, to be honest. The boot is actually quite big. I think this is maybe based on the same sort of floor plan as the 400 Taurus, so there's plenty of room in here. And it's very easy to reach and get this down. It just flicks down like that. But you've got to make sure, obviously, you've got your key out of the boot. Otherwise, you are stuffed, like in a lot of Rover models of this era. Rear diffuser on this, of course, and the targa panels are open today because it's quite a warm day up here in the northeast. 95 red paintwork and a little bonnet bulge as well. First R8 that I had was this colour 95 red as well, and the paint's looking in quite good condition actually. No fog lights on this trim sadly. You've got those on things like the 220 and 220 turbo. I think it's time though for me to try to get in the back, something I haven't done in one of these for a couple of years. Okay viewers, it's quite useful for me to show you as well, this car's got lumbar support, which is great. Not everything these days comes with that at all. Oh, it doesn't actually slide. All right, I'll get in anyway. Gosh, okay. Oh. Oh dear viewers, it's not good in here for me. My head's right up against the roof. I don't have any knee room. The seat's not even clumped back in its position. There is an ashtray though, and I've got some pockets of storing stuff in here. But there are just two seat belts, and the windows are quite small. So I'm glad I don't have to spend too much time in here. It's not really suitable for adults in the back of a Tomcat. I think we learned that 2 years ago. And here is the famous Rover K series engine, which seems to come up an awful lot in my videos, especially on no budget reviews. In this case, it is a 1.6 developing around 110 horsepower. The earlier 1.6 Tomcats had a Honda D series engine in them, which developed again about 110 horsepower. Now these engines, they can be great, they can be bad. It depends how you look after them, and also sometimes what sort of life the car's led before you bought it. This particular one has had a full rebuild, new cylinder head gasket, cam cover gasket, cam belt, all that sort of stuff. K series engines do not take kindly to skip maintenance. If you look after them, use good quality oil, change it regularly, change the timing belt at specified intervals, then they can be very reliable. They can do mileages of up to 200,000. If you skip the maintenance, you don't use proper oil, you don't change the cam belt on time, stuff like that, then they can be quite problematic. If you do need to change a head gasket, like the previous owner of a car has done on this, please use a good quality one, like a Victor Rhine set. Best to use an original spec one. The multi-layer steel gaskets were fashionable in the 2000s to fix the head gasket issue on a K series. Don't tend to be as good actually as the original spec ones. And make sure whatever you do with these, you can only really do the head gasket on these probably 2 or 3 times before there's nothing to skim off. So just make sure that, you know, if you're getting one of these, you need to do it, but it hasn't been done too many times, otherwise you're not going to have it done properly. There are plenty of specialists out there who'll do that for you, so you don't need to be really afraid of it. You just need to perhaps look for the signs either it's already been done to a good standard, or if you're going to do it yourself, just bear in mind what I've said. But yeah, the engine's actually quite nice. They're very revvy. You can modify these to produce masses of power, but just be aware of what I've said. Oh viewers, I do like driving nice R8 Rovers, and this Tomcat is no exception. I'm using my lady wife's phone to record this episode No Budget Reviews today, so the footage might look a little bit different from usual, and if it's worse then I do apologise. So when the Tomcat was launched in 1992 there were 3 models available: the 216, 220 and then the 220 Turbo. The 216 had a Honda D series engine which developed at 110 horsepower. There was also an automatic version available that would have used a Honda PG1 gearbox. Also using the PG1 gearbox for 220, developing 136 horsepower, and that's like the one Mr Richardson Furious Driving has. And the 220 Turbo, a fearsome 197 horsepower. When the facelift came, or rather sort of big change, because the car looked very similar on the outside, it was really the interior that was changed. The chrome grille this car has was added in about mid-1993. The engines were also changed. The Honda D series engine and the T series engine were dropped and replaced by this 1.6 K series engine, 110 horsepower. There was also an automatic option available, like a CVT, I think, out of the R3 Rover 200. And then there was the full-on fire-breathing VVC 1.8 version of the K series, developing 143 horsepower. You can see that's quite a long way short of 197 brake horsepower from the 220 Turbo, but it's not too far off the 220. One thing I remember about the way that Mr Richardson's Coupé drove was the suspension was absolutely rock hard, and actually one of the springs was broken at the time I was driving it. This is a bit more comfortable, it hasn't got gas coilovers on it or anything like that. Steering is really good. It's absolutely pin sharp accurate. Yes, loads and loads of feel. Hydraulic power steering, brilliant, absolutely first class. Oh, it's nice to be driving an R8 again, particularly a Tomcat. The camera's wobbling a bit, then I do apologise. This R65 gearbox in here, which is again commonly used in R8s and R3 200s and 400s and all sorts of other things. It does get a bit sloppy with high mileage, and the cable clutch can be a bit problematic. You can get those adjusted, and this one is biting a bit high, so I would maybe suggest to Chris when he gets that, just adjust it slightly lower so it's a bit easier to drive in traffic. But yes, the ride's a little bit on the firm side, it's not too bad. 0 to 60 in the 1.6 litre versions of these was 9.5 seconds, at top speed 120 miles an hour. In the 2 litre normally aspirated T series, 0 to 60 is 8.2 seconds, and the top speed is 127 miles an hour. T series turbo, 0 to 60 6.2 seconds. Now those had like a torsion
diff system in them. It's not quite traction control, but it's sort of similar. And the top speed in those is 150 miles an hour. With a 1.8 with variable valve timing, 0 to 60, 7.8 seconds, and the top speed was 131 miles per hour. So all of these are plenty fast enough. This feels nice and lively, like the K series always do. And these are available still for under £1,000. It might seem pretty crazy, but that is the case. They don't necessarily cost an awful lot of money even now. But prices of the really nice ones, things like the turbos, or if you could find a Japanese spec one, which was, you know, fully optioned up, those are starting to climb now. Right, I think we're going to have to go back, viewers, and draw some conclusions, much as I don't really want to give this back, but there we go. So viewers, the R8 Rover 200 Coupé, or the 1.6 Coupé, or the 1.8 Coupé, depending on what you want to call it. Is this a car that you should consider with your Honda budget of up to £1,000? Well, it might possibly be. I mean, there are some ergonomic compromises with these, and sometimes there are one or two engine problems. Another strange problem with these, and it's common to lots of R8s and R3s, is the heater resistor, which does fail, and the sign of this is that the fan doesn't work on anything other than the top two speeds. This one's fine, it works on speeds 1 and 2, so that's all fine. Yes, it's been nice to revisit this after a while, and to drive a slightly different version of it. Being a person who's owned 8 Rovers in you know, my lifetime, perhaps, you know, it's not really a surprise, but I really like it. And of course, knowing Chris, who owns this car, he's kept it in exceptional condition. That's just what's happened. But anyway, thank you for watching this episode of No Budget Reviews. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment below. We might be driving you know, more R8s in a little while, which I'm sure will please some of you. And yes, don't forget to switch on notifications to be informed of new uploads. Social media links are down below. And thank you ever so much indeed once again.